Welcome to the Telescope Show. We laugh, we discover God, and we totally nerd out. That was me howling at the moon, by the way. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Matthew Seipel Anderson, and with me is...
Katie Seipel Anderson, and are you a wolf today, or what's going on?
We're just feeling a little, loose, feeling a little crazy. It's a late night recording.
It is, and I think I might be to a new level of tired. Like when your kids get really tired and they get like goofy, or when like you're young and you like can't stop laughing because you're really tired or something. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm overly tired right now.
Well, today we are talking about Andor, the newest Star Wars show.
Which is not really a funny show.
We've been having some some disagreements talking about it here, so it's going to be interesting to see how this conversation unfolds.
Dun, dun, dun.
I trust that you, the audience, will see that I'm correct in all my opinions.
I trust that you, the audience, are smart enough to make decisions for yourself. I'm right.
Oh, I feel like you have something that you're about to share with me, being that you're so smart.
You know who else is smart?
Who?
Spies. And spy masters.
It's true, you do have to be quite clever to be a spy.
And this show is kind of about spies.
It's true, the Andor show, that's their jam.
I like spy movies.
Spies and espionage, bringing down the empire, sticking it to the man, speaking truth to power.
Did you know that there is a spy museum in Washington, D.C.? Go to spymuseum.org. You can learn all about it. And they have all sorts of exhibits with different spy stuff.
That actually sounds really awesome. I wonder if spies...
Maybe they'll spy on you when you're there. Maybe the whole thing is a front so they can get spy information.
I wouldn't put it past them. They are the experts.
That would be a really funny way for spies to share information, is to go through the spy museum.
You know what spy movie I really enjoy, or spy show, is Agent Carter. I don't know if they're quite spies, but they are secret agents, so really...
They go undercover sometimes.
I'd say
Doesn't that make you a spy?
Yeah, I would say so. And I love in that show when they plant the security devices, or like the hidden cameras, and they're like as big as a baseball because the show's back with old tech. It just cracked me up. Let me put this hidden camera, ka-chunk. So I would be curious if I went to the spy museum if they have any of that kind of old spy tech.
I think they do. They said that they had like spy tools and stuff. So
that's just super cool.
And of course, information on spies and stuff. But yeah.
Although, do you think you could believe anything you read in a spy museum?
I think so.
That's their bread and butter, is literally
but
lying.
Good spies would weave in enough truth to make it interesting.
So I guess the deception is worth it. Let's go. Well, Katie, did you know that we have a spy master on our $1 bill? George Washington was the United States' first spy master. He had a network of spies during the Revolutionary War. And you can read all about it in the book George Washington's Secret Six, The Spy Ring That Saved the American Revolution.
Or you can just be close to Matt while he's reading it, and he will tell you all about it.
Yeah, I read it.
So I don't have to.
I read it a while ago, and I remember a few interesting tidbits. There was a guy. Just want to hear a sad tale? A quick sad tale?
I don't want to hear sad tales.
Okay, we'll read the book, and you'll hear a few sad tales.
Well, but now I'm curious enough, so I do want to hear it.
Okay, just in brief, there was a guy who was a double agent for the United States, but he had to pose as a British sympathizer, and so after the war, his business totally tanked because, of course, the United States won. Everyone thought he had supported the British the whole time, and they didn't support him anymore. So it hurt him personally, but he actually was a double agent for the U.S., but nobody knew it.
Not even after?
I don't think so.
Oof. Well, George Washington wasn't the first spy master.
I have a feeling you're going to tell me about someone who...
Well, wasn't Moses kind of a spy master?
You know, you're right. Moses and Joshua. Joshua also sent spies in.
Yeah, which one was more masterful? Moses, because he had 12 spies, or Joshua, because he had like a double agent? I guess you could kind of say God because he directed the whole thing. I don't know.
I'm going to go with...
I'm not going to call God a spy master, though.
He's just the master. I'm gonna say Moses because he had 12 spies, but they kind of turned on him.
Yeah, they weren't very good spies. They were basically like, this is too hard for us. I'd say Joshua. He actually, like, those spies, like, did the work.
They came through.
They flipped an agent.
Good work, Joshua. Well, let's talk about Andor. This show is much more realistic. It feels very grounded compared to other Star Wars stuff that's come out. And I personally liked it. And let me give you a couple details before we jump into the deep, heavy stuff. It's going to be 12 episodes long. There is a second season coming. If you want more Andor, if you love it, they're actually doing a second season, which is going to bring us right up to the events of Rogue One.
So that's so we can get super emotionally invested before we see them all die.
Maybe it's so we can learn how much impact their lives truly had.
You know, that's true. Just because someone dies doesn't mean that their life isn't impactful or they're not worthwhile to get to know. Well, and I guess that's good because we all do eventually. So
Right. I believe this is a quote from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, one of those movies. You may be a king or a lowly street sweeper, but sooner or later, we all meet the Reaper.
wow. I'm waiting for some like great quote or something. Well, C.S.
What?
Lewis says
That was a great quote.
it was a great quote. C.S. Lewis says the mortality rate is 100% because everyone does die.
That's true. Doesn't the quote go something like, war does not increase death? The mortality rate is 100%.
It's just kind of like a cold way of thinking about it, but it's also when you think about it, you're like, well, that's true.
There's also a psalm. It's either a psalm or a proverb that says, Lord, teach me to number my days so I can get wisdom. So I guess just living with the realization that we are mortal it's not the worst thing.
You know, we're mortals and what we do here on Earth matters, but we're also eternal beings too, which is why it was so important what Jesus did for us, because what we do here on Earth can affect not only our own eternity, but other people's too.
Right, and having that eternal perspective can help you endure a lot of things.
It can help deal with grief too, especially, you know, as Christians, we believe in the power of salvation through Jesus Christ and eternal life, and that can be really helpful when dealing with grief from loss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that you've mentioned that the show, like, people use the word gritty to kind of describe Andor, and I'd say that's pretty accurate. You know, moral ambiguity is totally in there, and some real loss is in there, and it's definitely not like lighthearted. They don't really joke around, and some real characters have already died. Characters that you already kind of get to know a little bit, and it's not a fun light show for sure.
And how do you feel about that? Because, how do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that? I feel like it's pretty raw. And sometimes it can be like fun to watch that kind of stuff. And sometimes I just want to watch like She-Hulk where it's totally fictional and funny. And
I get that. I think for me, it's a bit of a breath of fresh air, probably because... Does that sound horrible or what?
the fresh air.
I love all these
people
dying and the dire circumstances are just filling me with joy.
I love the bleakness. I've just been waiting for something with bleakness in it.
Enough of this summer.
Wow.
I guess what I'm saying is...
okay, Matt?
Some of the recent Star Wars projects have been a bit disappointing for me. What I like about this project is it feels like the stakes are really high. You get a sense that the Empire is really mean and evil, and that even though these people in the rebellion are doing some questionable things in response, it is because things are so dire. So I guess just the fact that it makes the show more intense.
Makes it kind of spyish too.
I think it's emotionally compelling.
Not draining, compelling.
Oh, boy. Let's talk about some of these characters.
Good idea.
We've got the new droid, B2EMO, and I have to point this out because I realized this. You think about the tone of the show and then that name, B2EMO.
It does kind of like have an emotional side to it.
Yeah, definitely. I love him, though.
It's not really, it's almost like the comic relief, but it's more just like the lovable character. that helps ease the bleakness of the show.
How about Bix? Bix is the female character who's also sort of connected to the rebellion. You probably knew that.
Well, I knew that. We watched it together.
But if you're listening, maybe you didn't know that, and now you do. Will she survive? Because they could bring her out of Andor and then pop her back into something.
They could. I could actually maybe see her not surviving, though. Because she's a likable enough character that I think is, like, not essential to the future storyline, who could be expendable. And the way the direction this show seems to be going in is that they're not afraid to cut the characters that we love.
And it could also play a large role in making Andor this hardened member of the resistance, or not the resistance at this point, the rebellion.
Definitely could. I just want to know what's going to happen with his sister.
If we're even going to see his sister. I was looking in the list of cast members, and I did not see anyone playing his sister.
Oh, no. Oh, great.
But it doesn't mean it could be hidden. That would be very spyish for them not to release the information about the cast member. Or maybe that's a season 2 thing.
Let's go with season 2.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine that you have to give credit where credit's due.
So this next character, Luthen Rael, is played by Stellan Skarsgård, which can I just say, that is a killer name. So he is sort of the mentor, the guide. He's recruiting.
So he's the one who's like the buyer.
Yeah, he's the buyer. He's recruiting Andor into the rebellion.
And he looked so familiar to me when I'm watching it. I'm like, man, he looks familiar. And then Matt nailed it. He is the professor, Dr.
Like Dr. Skellig. I cannot remember
Thor.
the actual. Yeah, and Thor, yes. Yes, he's Jane Foster's
mentor,
colleague.
Yeah, colleague, mentor person. Yeah.
And he's been in a bunch of stuff. And I think he's a great actor. And in this, he's so much more tough.
Yeah.
He's not silly like he is in Thor. Will he survive?
Oh, he's another one I could see him. I feel like they're just going to kill off everyone. I don't know.
All right. Well, Saw Gerrera. We know he dies in Rogue One, so he's going to survive through the series. I'm looking forward to meeting Saw Gerrera in this time in his life. In Rogue One, his character was very paranoid, and he's kind of held up in that fortress. But here, I think we're going to see him in his full sabotaging, blasting Imperial glory.
That sounds fun.
It does sound fun. How about K2SO? Do you remember him? He's the big black droid
from
Rogue One who sacrificed himself to save Cassian.
Yeah, which was like kind of sad.
Yeah, and they gave him a great personality. If I remember right, he was a complete pessimist.
Yes,
he was always making pessimistic comments. It was pretty funny, actually. So, do you see any bright spots coming in this show, or is this show just going to be dark all the way through?
I mean, they all die.
I think there's going to be a bright spot where they're going to see these people who have been oppressed starting to come together and organize in a real way and form the rebellion. And I think that's going to be fun, and I think it's going to be... Actually, you know what? It might not be fun. I think it's going to be inspiring.
I could see that. I could see it being more like inspiring than considered bright.
Well, we would love to know all your thoughts and predictions for Andor. Are you enjoying the show? Were you let down by the show? What do you think of the gritty feel of the show? Do you like that? Do you not like that? Let us know in the comments wherever you're listening, or head over to our website and shoot us an email. That website is thetelescopeshow.com. Head over there. You can listen to all of our episodes and find ways to connect with us right through the website. And if you're enjoying this show today, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes.
And check out the Spy Museum.
Washington, D.C.
In Washington, D.C. Maybe they got some ideas for Andor from the Spy Museum.
I wouldn't be surprised. That would be the place to go. Hey, and speaking of places to go, there's one other thing I forgot. We're going to be at Twin Cities Con in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the Convention Center this November 11th through the 13th. So stop by. I will
spy on Matt.
I will not be incognito. I'll be right there in the open. So come
are you
find
gonna
me.
be dressed in cosplay though?
Ooh, I'm not sure yet.
Maybe you will. You should dress as a spy. I don't know how you dress as a spy. How do you dress as a spy?
If I was a spy, I wouldn't tell you. So
True that.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Love you. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.